Think fast, talk smart, and read people. Listen closely. What I'm about to tell you will separate you from the herd forever. Most people walk through life blind. They think the world operates on fairness, on honesty, on good intentions. They're wrong, and their blindness costs them everything. You're here because something inside you knows the truth. The game is rigged, but not against you. It's rigged for those who understand the rules. Machiavelli understood this 5 centuries ago. The world hasn't changed, only the players have gotten weaker. Every conversation is a battlefield, every interaction is a negotiation, every person you meet is either an asset or a threat. And if you can't tell the difference in the first 60 seconds, you've already lost. Think fast, not frantically, not desperately, but with the cold precision of a grandmaster seeing 8 moves ahead. Talk smart, not more, not louder, but with words that land like surgical strikes, words that open doors, words that close threats. Read people, not their words, their fears, their desires, the gap between what they say and what they want. That gap is where power lives. Drop "I am becoming untouchable" in the comments right now. Let me see who's ready. The mask of power. Here's what they don't teach you. Every powerful person you've ever seen wears a mask. Not because they're fake, because they're smart. Your true self is a liability. Your emotions are weapons your enemies will use against you. Your intentions must remain invisible until the moment you strike. Machiavelli wrote that it's better to be feared than loved. But here's what he really meant. It's better to be respected than needed. Need creates dependency. Respect creates distance. And distance is protection. Watch how the weak operate. They overshare. They seek validation. They apologize for taking up space. They telegraph every move 3 days before they make it. Then they wonder why they keep losing. Now watch the powerful. They smile while calculating. They listen more than they speak. They reveal nothing while extracting everything. They make you feel important while they assess your value. Cold, no. Efficient. You think you're having a casual conversation. They're running reconnaissance. You think you're making small talk. They're mapping your pressure points. You think they like you. They're deciding if you're useful. This isn't cruelty. This is clarity. The strong don't waste time on elaborate deceptions. They simply control the frame. They decide what the interaction is about. They set the pace. They determine the outcome before you realize there was a contest. Your mask isn't about lying. It's about strategic revelation. Show people what serves you. Hide what makes you vulnerable. Express warmth without weakness. Project confidence without arrogance. Be present without being available. The moment you master your presentation, you control their perception. And perception is reality. Comment, "I control the frame," if you're paying attention. I'm watching. The architecture of influence. Let me tell you something that will change how you see every relationship. Influence isn't about charisma, it's about leverage. And leverage comes from understanding what people truly want versus what they say they want. Everyone is driven by hidden motives: status, security, validation, revenge, pleasure, fear of loss. The person sitting across from you right now has a hierarchy of needs they'll never articulate. Your job is to decode it before they finish their first sentence. Dark psychology isn't manipulation, it's pattern recognition. People are predictable. They follow scripts written by their insecurities. The ambitious man fears irrelevance. The wealthy man fears exposure. The beautiful woman fears aging. The intelligent man fears being ordinary. Find the fear, you find the handle. Machiavelli understood that people act from self-interest disguised as principle. They'll tell you they want honesty. What they want is comfort. They'll say they value loyalty. What they value is convenience. They'll claim they respect strength. What they respect is results. So stop listening to their words, watch their patterns. Who do they call when they're desperate? What do they brag about? What do they avoid discussing? Where do they spend their time, their money, their attention? These are the maps to their soul. Now here's where you gain the edge. While they're busy managing their image, you're collecting data. While they're performing, you're observing. While they're talking, you're listening for the contradictions, the hesitations, the overcompensations. Every person has a tell. Some touch their face when they lie. Others break eye contact when they're uncertain. Some over-explain when they're hiding something. Others go silent when they're threatened. Learn these tells like a poker player studies hands. But here's the key. You must eliminate your own tells first. Your face must remain neutral when you're calculating. Your voice must stay even when you're angry. Your body language must project calm when you're strategizing. Because the person who shows nothing wins everything. This is the architecture of influence. You become the immovable center while everyone else revolves around you. You ask the questions. You control the silence. You decide when the conversation ends. Type, "I see what others miss" in the comments. Show me you understand the game. The currency of conversation. Words are not communication, they're currency. And most people are bankrupt before they open their mouths. You want to talk smart? Stop talking to be heard. Talk to create effects. Every sentence you speak should move the needle toward your objective. No objective? Then silence is your best weapon. Here's the brutal truth. 90% of what people say is noise, filler, social lubrication, anxiety management. They talk because silence terrifies them. They explain because they need approval. They joke because they fear irrelevance. This is weakness speaking. The powerful speak differently. They use fewer words with greater impact. They make statements, not suggestions. They ask questions that put others on defense while they remain unexposed. They never explain themselves unless explanation serves a strategic purpose. Machiavelli would tell you this: in negotiation, whoever speaks first loses. In conflict, whoever shows emotion first bleeds. In manipulation, whoever reveals their hand first gets played. These aren't rules. They're laws, natural laws of human interaction that govern every exchange, whether you acknowledge them or not. So how do you weaponize your words? First, eliminate uncertainty from your speech. Delete maybe and I think and possibly from your vocabulary. Replace them with declarations, not arrogant, certain. There's a difference. Arrogance invites challenge. Certainty creates reality. Second, master the pause. Most people fear silence like death. They rush to fill it with increasingly desperate offerings. You let silence work for you. You ask a pointed question, then go quiet. Watch them squirm, watch them reveal, watch them negotiate against themselves while you do nothing. Third, redirect rather than defend. Someone challenges you. Don't justify, don't explain. Ask them a question that reframes the entire interaction. Make them defend their position while you never acknowledge the attack. This is conversational jujitsu. Use their momentum against them. Fourth, observe the ratio. Listen 70%, speak 30%. But when you speak, make it count. Make it memorable. Make it quotable. Let your words echo after you leave the room. Fifth, never seek approval for your opinions. State them as observations about reality. Not, "I believe the project will fail," but "the project has 3 fatal flaws." See the difference? One invites debate. The other presents facts, even if they're not facts, especially if they're not facts. Here's what happens when you master conversational power. People start seeking your opinion. Your silence becomes more influential than their speeches. Your questions become more powerful than their answers. You become the gravitational center of every room you enter. Not because you're loud, because you're precise. Remember this: the person who needs the conversation least controls it most. Desperation is obvious. Detachment is magnetic. Outcome independence is ultimate power. Comment, "My words are weapons," if this is clicking for you. I need to see who's truly absorbing this. The invisible throne. Power isn't what people think it is. It's not the loudest voice in the room. It's not the biggest title on the door. Real power is invisible until the moment it needs to be seen, and by then, it's already too late to challenge it. You want to become untouchable. Stop announcing your moves. Stop seeking recognition. Stop needing people to know you're winning. The king who constantly reminds people he's king is already losing his kingdom. Machiavelli's greatest insight wasn't about cruelty or deception. It was about perception management. He understood that reality is subjective. Whoever controls the narrative controls the outcome. You don't need to be the strongest. You need to be perceived as the most costly to challenge. Think about it. The most dangerous people you know don't threaten. They don't boast. They don't posture. They simply exist with such unmistakable competence that challenging them seems foolish. That's the throne you're building, not made of gold, made of respect earned through consistent, undeniable results. Here's how you construct it. First, you become irreplaceable in small ways. You deliver when others promise. You solve problems others complicate. You stay calm when others panic. Slowly, imperceptibly, people begin depending on your judgment, your presence, your input. You've created a vacuum that only you can fill. Second, you master strategic absence. You're not always available, not always responsive, not always present. Scarcity creates value. When you show up, it matters. When you speak, people listen. When you leave, they notice. This isn't game playing. This is understanding that your attention is your most valuable resource. Spend it wisely. Third, you create optionality. Never be stuck in one position, one relationship, one income stream, one identity. The moment you have no alternatives, you have no power. Always be building the next thing while maintaining the current thing. Always have 3 people who could replace any person in your life. Harsh? No. Necessary. Dependency is death. Fourth, you control your reactions. Someone insults you? Stone face. Someone praises you? Stone face. Someone tests you? Stone face. Not because you don't feel, because you don't leak. Emotional volatility is blood in the water. Predators can smell it from miles away. Your consistency becomes your armor. Fifth, you document everything, every promise made to you, every agreement reached, every conversation that matters, not because you're paranoid, because you're prepared. People's memories become remarkably selective when it serves them. Your documentation doesn't argue, it simply presents reality. Sixth, you build alliances without attachment. Know who has power, know who wants power, know who's losing power. Position yourself as valuable to all 3 groups without belonging to any. Be the bridge, be the connector, be the translator, but never be the dependent. Here's what nobody tells you about power. It's exhausting to maintain through force, but effortless to maintain through positioning. The dictator works harder than the kingmaker. The tyrant sleeps less than the advisor, because visible power attracts challenges, invisible power attracts opportunity. You're not trying to dominate every room. You're trying to be the person people call when domination fails. You're not trying to win every argument. You're trying to be right when it counts. You're not trying to be feared. You're trying to be understood as someone who doesn't lose. That's the invisible throne, built not with intimidation, but with undeniable competence, not with threats, but with track record, not with words, but with results that speak louder. Drop "I am building my empire" in the comments. Let me know who's ready to claim their throne. The anatomy of deception. Let's talk about something most people won't admit. Everyone lies, every single day. The only difference between you and them is whether you lie consciously or unconsciously, whether you lie strategically or desperately, whether you control the deception or the deception controls you. Machiavelli didn't condemn deception, he systematized it. He understood that truth is a tool, not a virtue. Sometimes truth builds bridges, sometimes it burns them. Your job isn't to be honest, your job is to be effective. And effectiveness requires knowing when truth serves you and when it doesn't. But here's where amateurs fail. They think deception means lying constantly. Wrong. The best deceivers tell the truth 90% of the time. They build credibility like a bank account, deposit after deposit of honesty and reliability. Then when it matters, when the stakes are highest, they make a withdrawal. And nobody questions it because the account is full. Dark psychology teaches us that people want to believe. They want to trust. They want to think well of others because thinking well of others makes them feel good about themselves. This vulnerability is your advantage, not because you're cruel, because you're awake. Watch someone lie to you, really watch. Their baseline behavior changes. Maybe they touch their neck. Maybe they blink more rapidly. Maybe they add unnecessary details to make the lie believable. Maybe they get defensive when you haven't even challenged them yet. These micro-expressions, these behavioral shifts, they're the cracks in the mask. Now, here's your edge. You must know your own tells and eliminate them. Record yourself lying. Yes, actually do this. Tell a camera 3 lies and 3 truths. Watch the footage. Study yourself like a scientist studying a specimen. Where do you leak? Where does your body betray your mind? Fix it. Practice until your lies and truths are indistinguishable. This isn't about becoming a liar. This is about becoming unreadable. The real skill isn't in the lie itself. It's in the delivery ecosystem around the lie. You need the right amount of eye contact. Not too much, that's overcompensation. Not too little, that's guilt. Just natural, steady, unwavering. Your vocal tone must remain consistent. No pitch changes, no speed variations, no volume fluctuations. Flat, emotional affect across all statements. And here's the master technique. Believe your own lie while you're telling it, not permanently, just in that moment. Method actors call this living truthfully under imaginary circumstances. You construct the false reality so thoroughly in your mind that when you speak it, there's no cognitive dissonance to leak through your behavior. Your brain isn't processing deception, it's processing a temporary alternative reality. But reading deception in others, that's where you become dangerous. Most people listen to words. You listen to everything else. You watch for clusters of tells, not single indicators. 1 sign means nothing. 3 signs appearing together, that's a pattern. That's probable deception. Look for these combinations. Increased blinking plus touching face plus sudden formality in language. Or decreased eye contact plus clearing throat plus adding irrelevant details. Or defensive body posture plus aggressive tone plus overuse of qualifiers like honestly and to tell you the truth. People who are actually telling the truth don't need to announce it. Here's another key. Ask the same question 3 different ways across 3 different contexts. Liars struggle with consistency. They have to remember what they said and to whom. Truth tellers just remember what happened. Their story doesn't change because there's no story. There's just reality. And pay attention to timing. When you ask a question, how long until they respond? Too fast means rehearsed. Too slow means constructed. Natural response has a rhythm. Learn that rhythm for each person. Deviations from baseline are your red flags. But remember this always. The goal isn't to catch everyone lying. The goal is to know when you're being lied to so you can decide how to respond. Sometimes you play along. Sometimes confrontation serves you. Sometimes you file the information away for later use. Knowledge is power only when combined with strategic patience. You're not trying to be paranoid. You're trying to be informed. You're not trying to distrust everyone. You're trying to verify everything. Because in a world where everyone is managing their image, the person who sees through the management wins. Comment, I see through the masks, if you're understanding the depth of this game. The calculus of ruthlessness. Here's what separates the powerful from the powerless. The powerful make hard decisions without emotional interference. The powerless let feelings dictate strategy, and then they wonder why they keep losing. Ruthlessness isn't cruelty. Let me be clear about this. Cruelty is hurting people for pleasure. Ruthlessness is prioritizing your objectives over others' comfort. One is sadism, the other is survival. Learn the difference or stay weak forever. Machiavelli faced this question directly. Is it better to be moral and destroyed or pragmatic and victorious? History answered for him. The moral princes lost their kingdoms. The pragmatic ones built empires. Not because morality is wrong, because morality without power is just philosophy, and philosophy doesn't feed your family or protect your future. You're going to face moments where being kind costs you everything, where giving someone another chance guarantees your failure, where loyalty to a sinking ship drowns you with it. In those moments, sentiment is suicide. You must be able to cut losses, cut people, cut attachments, cut anything that threatens your survival or success. This doesn't make you a monster, it makes you effective. The surgeon who refuses to amputate the infected limb kills the patient to avoid causing pain. That's not compassion. That's cowardice disguised as kindness. Real compassion sometimes requires the knife. So how do you develop this capacity? First, you separate people from their utility. Stop seeing individuals as inherently valuable. Start seeing them as assets or liabilities based on their current contribution to your objectives. Harsh? Maybe. True? Absolutely. Your childhood friend who drains your energy and contributes nothing is a liability regardless of your history. Your colleague who delivers results but you don't particularly like is an asset regardless of personal chemistry. Second, you practice emotional detachment in low-stakes situations. Someone cancels plans. Don't react emotionally. Analyze whether maintaining that relationship serves you. Someone criticizes you. Don't defend. Assess whether their opinion matters to your goals. Someone disappoints you. Don't express hurt. Decide whether their future behavior will likely improve or repeat. Train yourself to think strategically before feeling personally. Third, you embrace the concept of acceptable losses. Every strategy has costs. Every victory requires sacrifice. The question isn't whether you'll lose something. The question is what you're willing to lose to gain what you want. Your comfort, your popularity, your reputation as a nice person. Decide now what you'll trade, because indecision in the moment of crisis is just slow-motion failure. Fourth, you master the surgical strike. When you must act ruthlessly, do it swiftly and completely. Don't wound and hope they recover. Don't half-commit and leave enemies at your back. Machiavelli's most famous advice applies here. If you must harm someone, do it all at once. Prolonged cruelty creates resentment. Decisive action creates acceptance. The employee you slowly push out becomes your enemy. The employee you fire cleanly moves on. Fifth, you develop selective empathy. You can't care about everyone equally. That's not deep compassion. That's shallow concern spread so thin it's meaningless. Instead, identify your inner circle. Maybe it's 3 people, maybe it's 5. These people get your loyalty, your protection, your genuine care. Everyone else gets professionalism and cordial distance. This isn't cold, this is honest. You have finite emotional resources. Invest them where they matter. Sixth, you document your reasoning. Before you make a ruthless decision, write down why, not to justify to others, to maintain your own clarity. Because ruthlessness without principle becomes chaos. You need to know your boundaries. What will you do? What won't you do? Where is your line? Define it now in calm rationality so you're not inventing ethics in the heat of crisis. Here's what happens when you master calculated ruthlessness. You stop being taken advantage of. You stop sacrificing your goals for others' comfort. You stop being the person everyone relies on, but nobody respects. You become someone with clear boundaries, consistent standards, and unwavering commitment to your objectives. But understand this paradox. True ruthlessness often looks like patience. You don't react to every slight. You don't punish every betrayal immediately. You wait, you document, you position. Then when the moment is optimal, you act with such precision that there's no recovery, no countermove, no second chance. The appearance of tolerance while you're actually building the case for their removal, that's mastery. People will call you cold. Let them. People will say you've changed. Good. People will claim you've lost your humanity. They're wrong. You've found your spine. You've discovered that niceness without standards is just people-pleasing. That forgiveness without accountability is just enabling. That loyalty without reciprocity is just being used. The world doesn't reward the kindest person. It rewards the most effective person. And effectiveness requires the courage to make hard choices without the luxury of comfortable feelings. Type "I make hard decisions" in the comments. Show me who has the stomach for real power. The fortress mindset. Let me tell you about the greatest weakness I see everywhere. People build their lives on foundations they don't control. Their happiness depends on others' approval. Their success depends on others' decisions. Their peace depends on others' behavior. This is building a castle on sand. You want to become untouchable? Build internal fortifications. Construct a psychological fortress so strong that external chaos can't penetrate it. This isn't isolation. This is independence. There's a massive difference. Stoicism teaches this perfectly. You control 3 things: your thoughts, your actions, your responses. Everything else is outside your domain. The weather isn't yours. Other people's opinions aren't yours. The economy isn't yours. Fair or unfair treatment isn't yours. Traffic isn't yours. Your boss's mood isn't yours. 99% of what happens to you daily is beyond your control. So why do you waste energy trying to control it? Why do you stress about things you can't change? Why do you worry about outcomes you can't determine? Because you haven't built the fortress yet. You're still exposed, still vulnerable, still giving your power away to circumstances. Here's how you construct it. First, you eliminate external validation as your fuel source. Stop checking how many likes your post got. Stop measuring your worth by promotions or raises. Stop needing people to acknowledge your achievements. Your internal scorecard is the only one that matters. Did you execute to your standard? Yes or no? That's the only question. Second, you prepare for worst-case scenarios. Most people practice positive thinking. You practice negative preparation. What if you lose your job tomorrow? What's your plan? What if your relationship ends next week? What's your foundation? What if your business fails next month? What's your backup? This isn't pessimism. This is strategic paranoia. The person who's prepared for disaster doesn't fear it. Third, you diversify everything. Multiple income streams, multiple skill sets, multiple relationships, multiple identities. Never be one thing, never depend on one source, never put all your weight on one leg. The moment you become dependent on anything or anyone, you've created a vulnerability, and vulnerabilities are where you'll be attacked. Fourth, you practice voluntary discomfort. Fast when you're not hungry, exercise when you're tired, work when you want to relax. Why? Because when involuntary discomfort comes, and it will, you'll already be trained. Hardship won't break you because you've been breaking yourself intentionally. Discipline is rehearsal for disaster. Fifth, you accept that nothing is permanent. Your health will fail. Your relationships will end. Your money can disappear. Your reputation can be destroyed. Everything you have can be taken. When you truly accept this, you stop clinging. You start enjoying without attachment. You participate without desperation. You love without need. This is freedom. The fortress mindset means you're complete within yourself. Unshakable because there's nothing external holding you up. Self-sufficient because you've eliminated dependency. Untouchable because you've removed the handles people use to control you. Comment, "I am my own fortress," if you're committed to this level of internal strength.